So I don't think anybody jumped on that quick, but the future recording will be able to hear these initial opening words.
Are you ready to hunt?
Oh, this comp. I see brilliance before me already. All this DPS, only a Loki for heals. I smell debacle incoming.
I am king of my people, god of our gods.
See, T'Challa just admitted it, he's a god king.
Quite the empire you've built here, Panther. Wakanda has found its new home amongst the stars. Stars are cool, but do you happen to have any moons? More than you can count, my friend.
The battle starts in 5,
It was a copy of the 6th and 7th books of Moses, which is a German, like, legit occult text. Was the one in question. Yes, do not. Then if you do find it, burn it.
Their numbers are many. Stay strong.
My comp is horrible, so it's time for deviousness and treachery. Take that, tiny raccoon. Yeah, you can't really 1v6 on Black Panther. No, this is not ranked. I do not stream ranked because I get distracted since I'm answering questions from the chat. And so I only do ranked non-streaming. Buckied in the face.
Again, my ancestors are watching.
I could not allow a trace of Null's darkness to survive.
Oh boy. Yeah, I said when I saw this comp, debacle incoming.
On your toes.
This is the joy of quick play. On the weekend especially. Ooh, that was awkward. I got shot in mid-spin kick. Oh man, why are you rezzing us right in front of everybody? And then not healing us? Oh, what's wrong with you? Look at that.
My soul shall not rest yet.
So I think I missed a question about Eucharitic, potentially. Or maybe it was just a joke about Eucharitic. Either of which is acceptable.
Powerful healing. We may be outnumbered.
Let's try this again. Oh, hey! Bucky's mad at me.
Playtime's over. Not so bad. I still have some hunt left in me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure cuneiform isn't in the available alphabets. I mean, you could do it in transliteration. Haha, take that, Bucky.
My strength is renewed. You got a tail. Tremble before fast!
These weapons don't impress me.
Supernova!
Ooh. Scarlet Witched.
I have returned from Dejalia.
The time has come. Attack! The final 10 seconds!
This time.
Ah. That was a result of my wife distracting me. See, this is why I don't play competitive while I'm streaming. Not that I could have pulled that out of the fire. That was horrible. Our comp was horrible. Well, she's standing right here, so...
Help get that vehicle to its destination.
Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Who's in the group? I'm going to be completely unhelpful.
I was terrorized, broken, and remade in the Red Room.
This has Moon Knight written
Now
all
I
over
command it.
I'm bright like a star.
It's bright. Khonshu's hunt is about to begin.
Beneath the planet of the symbiotes? I think I saw this.
So,
You get a weapon.
yeah.
You get a weapon. You get a weapon.
I've been farming achievements the last couple days.
Your domain is not. There's an
So I've been playing weird characters I normally don't play. With varying results. But...
Last must be prized. Lead them to victory! Trio of victory. I know that begin.
Oh yeah, melee Black Widow. Here we go. Thor's confused.
Here they come.
Let's get beneath the surface and finish them.
Stay there. Keep going.
Oh boy, that was a mistake jumping down right then. So, feel free to ask random questions. In addition to watching me not help my team much as Black Widow. Oh, we got some trash talk going on in the game chat over there.
There. Don't turn back now.
Oh. Go get him, Jala. Avenge me.
Behold the...
Okay, I can't do this. I can't be this unhelpful.
Get that vehicle moving again.
What do they need? They have no healers? They have no healers.
It feels good to step outside my bubble every now and then.
Get this sledge moving. Cooked. Oh, that was too close.
So,
Only 60 seconds against the world.
Temporary Saint I mean, I assume by that you mean recent saint, right? Like, because, you know, we don't glorify saints until they've passed away. Probably the newly canonized Father Dumitru Staniloae. Would probably be. If you haven't read his Orthodox Dogmatics, which was, thanks for the heals, by the way, Jeff. If you haven't read his Orthodox Dogmatics that was published in the U.S. as Experiencing God, you should, assuming you can find. It was published, the English translation is in 6 volumes. It was published by Holy Cross, which Holy Cross's perpetual money issues means that, like, the 6 volumes go in and out of print all the time, separately. So, yeah. Well, that was terrible. But I take no blame for that because I joined already in progress and they had no healer for most of their run. So I take slight blame for having tried to play Black Widow there at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things I've commented on before. Like, Namor is like, half of the dialogue is like the Wakanda Forever Hispanic version, like Mayan version, and then like half of it, or like another third of it is like comic book canon, and then there's another like, I guess 6 that's left that's just kind of weird. Let's see who we get in this group. What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? Let's do Thor.
Asgardians never shrink from battles or feasts.
They'll be coming in 30 seconds. Stay strong.
Yes. This stream is all Toll Houses all the time.
I will preserve it.
And all Marvel Rivals all the time.
Reckoning.
Oh, they're chomping at the bit.
Starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have to stop them from securing the mission area.
Looks like you're my new guardians. Catch him! Right behind you!
Anyone willing to help?
With a scratch. You have need of my strength. Slow down. The wrath of Asgard.
Yeah. He still does, I think. I think he took that personal.
The lightning of Asgard returns.
Heavenly fury! Our foes have arrived.
Battle fury burns. Twas but a scratch. My power. Lightning should bite.
Waiting for them hella reses. They're not coming.
Double KO!
I am Thor, Odin sent, God God of Thunder.
Johnny Storm, ready to burn.
She can res Thor and Loki. And or grant them bonus health. This one, not so much, but...
This is real!
Behold the God of Thunder! Is no match for a good hammer.
Yes. Yes, that was Thor. Thor has some awesome dialogue. My favorite being when he gets a KO and yells, "Thus I smite thee."
Battle again!
Better stop that vehicle! They've made it halfway! Stop them! What am I? Invisible?
On your tail! Look out!
See, Hella's not paying attention to her button. She has an extra button because there's a Thor and or a Loki on the team. And she's kind of ignoring it. That happens sometimes, especially in quick play. Like, people don't really use the team-up abilities as much as they should.
Rise, my friends! The cosmos.
Shields up!
I'm pretty sure William Lane Craig can't play Rivals. I mean, I'm going out on a limb here, but...
Feel the wrath of the goddess!
Who is healing her?
There's still a chance to stop them!
Oh, no. Oh, it's Jeff. That Jeff was healing her.
Behold the God of Thunder!
I'm bright like a star! This is real firepower!
I am barely wounded.
Disappearing.
Yeah, sorry, Jeff. Time to die.
The cosmos heals you.
I am Thor Odinson, God of Thunder.
Nobody has any cues for my A's? It's okay if you just want to chill and watch me play Marvel Rivals, but... if you have any cues,
Not look happy.
feel free to cue them, and I will attempt to A them.
Right behind you!
Hold still. I'm trying to help.
'Twas but a scratch.
Please, I'm hurt.
Sure. So, part of the problem in people understanding passages like that is that a lot of us have grown up with a really bad, incorrect understanding of the doctrine of the Trinity.
Rise, my friends!
And so we read passages like that where Christ says the Father is greater than I, right? Or elsewhere in John's Gospel where Christ says, you know, thou the only true God and Jesus Christ whom thou hast sent, right? So what we have to understand is the original model of the Holy Trinity, the one that was actually endorsed at Council of Nicaea, is what's sometimes called the monarchical model of the Trinity, meaning the Holy Trinity, the divine nature, has one archie, God the Father. So God the Father is unoriginate. He is God. He simply possesses the divine essence. He does not receive the divine essence or divine nature from anyone else. He simply is it. And then from him, the Holy Spirit is begotten, or the Son is begotten. I'm going to end up in heresy here because I'm trying not to lose this game. So the Son is begotten, the divine Logos, is begotten before all time. So this is not a temporal category begotten. He doesn't come into existence. But he is begotten, meaning he receives, this is what's called eternal generation. He receives the divine nature, receives his participation in the divine essence from the Father. Likewise, the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father, again without time. So proceeds is not talking about him quote-unquote coming into existence when he previously did not. Rather, proceeds is talking about his eternal generation, meaning that he receives the divine essence and the divine nature from the Father. Famously, regarding the difference between being begotten and proceeding, St. Gregory the Theologian says, you ask me what the difference is, I tell you I do not know. So this is one of those areas that is mystery, the difference between the two, but that we accept what has been told to us by God. And we just accept that and go with that. We don't try to reason our way around it or explain it or add to it in any other way. Wow, I got hit by like 3 ultimates. But so what this means is that when you're reading the scriptures, for example, when it talks about O Theos, which would be literally translated the God, we usually don't do that in English, we translate that as capital G God. That's talking about God the Father. And then God, or divinity, is predicated of the Son and of the Spirit because they receive it by eternal generation. But this is why we don't worship 3 gods, because there's one archie, there's one first principle, God the Father, of the Godhead.
Behold the God of Thunder!
Double KO!
So, what that verse is referring to, when Christ says the Father is greater than I, that is what he is referring to. He's referring to the fact that the Father is Othos. The Father is the one from whom he receives divinity, who shares his glory with him, right? And so, various... It's not even really Western versions of the Trinity, to be fair. I mean, obviously the Filioque causes real problems with this, with the whole way that eternal generation is understood as not being from the Father alone. So you kind of, that's part of the Orthodox critique, right? Is it seems like if the Spirit proceeds from the Father, quote unquote, and the Son, then you've got 2 first principles, right? You effectively got 2 different gods.
God of Thunder!
Right, so what it really is, like I said, it's not a different Western model of the Trinity per se. It is more a it is more an issue of just sort of Western folk explanations that people have heard that aren't necessarily super detailed and accurate. And so when you understand that idea of the monarchical Trinity, that there's one first principle, that God the Father is O Theos, the God, then you can understand why Christ would say the Father is greater than I, or thou the only true God, and Jesus Christ whom thou hast sent. That's not denying Christ's divinity, but it's talking about the sort of taxis or order within the Holy Trinity. So there's the Trinity thing. I hope that came out okay as I was engaging in my Thoring activities. Down to the wire there. So somebody asked about the Eucharist, particularly the Eucharist in the West.
Pick your hero or villain. I'm not judging.
And I mean, I'm not sure exactly what kind of trajectory we're wanting to talk about, but essentially, I'll be nice to this Iron Man.
Science solves problems.
But essentially, in the West, starting in the 6th century especially, there's kind of a turn in discussions about the Eucharist. When you read Eastern discussions of the Eucharist, both before and after that, they're mostly talking about what the Eucharist does.
Get ready.
Right? Like how it functions.
Dr. Banner. What's a gamma door portal? Gamma? You mean a green door? Yeah, Reed's been working on it. Someone put that idea into his head.
And so,
no matter what.
in the West, there starts to be discussions about what it is. And so I say the 6th century is a Rubicon because in the 6th century, there's a big theological debate between Retrabdus and Radbertus, where they're arguing about whether the Eucharist is Christ's crucified body and blood or his glorified body and blood. Right? So you can see how that's kind of a maybe odd argument, right? Like, it's his body and blood, you know? And it's not like Christ has two different bodies and two different blood before and after the resurrection. Right, if you see what I'm saying. So, and then that sort of trajectory continues. And you can see that even to this day in sort of Roman Catholic discussions are all focused on transubstantiation and the physical nature of the real presence. Which, you know, I mean, the fact that it really is the body and blood of Christ is important, right? Like, and I'm not saying it's not by any means. But that becomes sort of the chief focus. And so those debates then sort of continue unabated when the Reformation starts, right? Because the Roman Catholic sort of defense of their view of the Eucharist focusing on the identity of the Eucharist as the physical body and blood of Christ kind of spurs a response from the other side of, well, no, that's not what it is. It's something else, right? And so then you get into a debate of what that is.
Find that sniper.
And Luther basically takes, so there are a lot of issues when the Protestant Reformation comes around where certain debates that had been going on in the West as internal debates like within Roman Catholicism.
Force my hand. So let's keep fighting until we have a winner.
The sort of Protestants will take one side and Roman Catholicism will take the other. So you get transubstantiation nailed down at the Council of Trent in a very particular version of it as Roman Catholic doctrine. And in contrast, Luther takes what had been a second view that was also prevalent in the West. So if you read Thomas Aquinas' Summa, when he gets to the Eucharist, he says there are basically two views among the fathers. One is basically what we now call transubstantiation. And the other one is something like Lutheran consubstantiation, which is the Lutheran view is essentially that the body and blood of Christ are there, are present, sort of in, with, and under, is their language, the bread and the wine. But the bread and the wine are still there.
Battle starts in 5,
As bread and wine.
3.
Yeah, they also use language of hypostatic union, which goes really weird places, like
Got it?
Christ's body and blood are hypostatically united to the bread and wine, which would be weird because that would mean Christ would be taking on a third nature of bread, which seems kind of odd. But that ends up being sort of the Lutheran view. Calvin's view is actually one that almost no one holds anymore.
Capture now.
Because Calvin's actual view is, you'll hear people shorthanded as spiritual presence, but that's not really Calvin's view. Calvin's view was that in the, which gets points for creativity at least, is that
Needed some help.
in the power of the Holy Spirit, people are lifted up to the heavenly places and participate in the heavenly banquet. And so rather than basically the body and blood of Christ coming down, the participants in the Eucharist are elevated. Right? And like I said, almost no one holds that view. Because, so, John Calvin really represented the French-Swiss Reformation. Ulrich Zwingli was the reformer of the German-Swiss Reformation. And a fellow named Heydrich Bullinger, who hammered out the Consensus Tigerinus, is what it's called, merged those two movements. So he merged Zwingli's movement and Calvin's movement into one movement. And when that happened, yes, that's the, so the current Calvinist tradition is really made up of the merger of those two Swiss Reformation traditions, right?
Judge, jury, executioner!
Mowed down. And they basically, the Calvinist, subsequent Calvinist tradition basically adopted the Zwinglian view. Zwingli's view, I will allow it in terms of putting it over T. I mean, it's irregular. It's irregular behavior, but I'll allow it. So the Ulrich Zwingli's view, the Zwingli view, that became the view of the Calvinist tradition, and thereby of the Puritan tradition, and thereby of American Christianity by and large, is that sacramentum is not about a sacred thing or a mystery, but that it is more about an oath, a sacred oath. And so for Zwingli,
Here we go again.
when you receive a sacrament, you're taking a sort of oath toward God. And you can see how Zwingli's view of it being an oath plays into, it was actually the Anabaptist and then just the Baptist movement emerged out of the Zwinglian part of the Reformation, and you can see why, right? That Credo-Baptist, adult baptism view. Well, if it's like taking an oath or making some kind of pledge, you've got to be sort of able to comprehend what's going on with it in a way that an infant can't necessarily, right? And also why you end up with, like, getting rid of paedo communion in most Western circles, right? Because again, if there's oath taking involved, that makes it seem like we need to have a certain level of understanding and intelligence in order to do it. That may not be present with One Health. Wow, may not be present with younger children. But even in Calvinist churches where they still practice infant baptism, and there are even a few Presbyterian churches that do infant communion, believe it or not, they
Another epic victory.
Still accept basically Zwingli's view of the Eucharist. That it's basically taking an oath. And they have various receptionist sort of forms, and through Calvinism and Puritanism that becomes a oh, I love when I play the Hulk getting kills as Bruce Banner, because you know that's got to tick people off when they watch the kill cam and see themselves getting domed by, like, David Tennant, like. Yeah, so Pontius Pilate in the Creed, basically that is correct. It's a historical anchor. It's talking about the fact that Christ's suffering and death is a historical thing that historically happened, like, in our world, right? That this isn't something that happened in some kind of metaphysical realm of myth or something, but that this is a historical event. You may be wondering, why am I playing Hawkeye? Because I saw that there's a Black Widow on this team, and I'm cruising for his... I've got one of his achievements, I don't have the other.
Wasn't very nice, was it? Enemy target located.
So that got cut off on my screen, but let me say this about that, and I think this may be an adequate, end up being an adequate answer. Hopefully this will be an adequate answer. In general, the Greek translations we have are translations of a different Greek original than, or a different Hebrew original than what's in the Masoretic text, where there are differences. So sometimes you can see the issue, like where a mistake is made. So I'll give you an example. In the book of Jonah, there's a place where in the Masoretic text, the now standard Hebrew, Jonah says that he is a Hebrew. And in the Greek of Jonah, he says, I am a servant of the Lord.
Done when I say we're done.
Okay. And it's like, well, which should it be? Is it I am a Hebrew, or is it I am a servant of the Lord? Well, I am a Hebrew in Hebrew is is the word Ibri.
Shrine of the Weaver, here we come.
And if you know the Hebrew alphabet at least, you know that a bait and a dalet roughly the equivalent of a B and a D in English, are very similar looking letters. There's one little jot, literally, one little jot of difference between the two.
Was that my arrow?
Only 60 seconds.
And so, Ibri, right, if you change that bait to a dalet, you get Ebed,
Bogies, here they come.
which is the word for servant or slave. And the Iota on there, Ibri, like I am a Hebrew, right? The I am a Hebrew part, the Yod there, that's the first person, can be interpreted as being an abbreviation for Yahweh. So if you read that as a dalet, you get Eved Yahweh, which means servant of the Lord. If you read it as Hebrew, then it's I am a Hebrew. So that's a case where you could look at the Hebrew and the Greek and you could say, okay, I can see what probably happened here in terms of the translator, right? Like he was either looking at a smudge text or a different version of the text that had the other variant, but it's a very slight, small variant, right, between those two words. In other cases, there's just no way to do it, right? Like you could stare at it all day. We used to do these in sort of like my advanced Hebrew classes. You'd sit and try and figure out, okay, what's going on here, right? With some of these, right? But some of them you just can't. Some of them there's no way you can get both from the text in any kind of obvious way or reasonable way. And so we know that there were, in the 3rd century BC, which is what we're talking about with these translations, right? There were multiple versions of the Hebrew text. The Masoretic text did exist at that time. It is not true that it was sort of made up or invented later, but it was not the only version, right? There were other versions. And so in those cases, we've got different versions. And so it is most likely, I think I know, like I said, even though it got cut off, I think I know the variation you're referring to in Psalm 90-91. And I think that variation is pretty much the product of it being a different Hebrew text that's getting translated. That's a variation of the Hebrew text. And you may have heard me right before. Yeah. Yeah, so there's no way in the Hebrew to get both of those from the same Hebrew sentence. Hey, that's why I was after that achievement. Yeah, and so we're probably looking at a different version of the psalm. And you shouldn't look at that as like, oh, well, which one is the real one? They're both real ones, right? We have a richness of the biblical text. And we can gain from,
that vehicle to its destination.
All of that richness. And you see this in the New Testament, right? Like, in the New Testament, wow, bad comps tonight.
Anything standing your way.
In the New Testament, you will see St. Paul, for example, he'll quote the standard Greek version of the Old Testament. He'll quote essentially the Masoretic Hebrew. He'll quote other Hebrew texts we don't have or other Greek texts we don't have. Sometimes it's not totally clear. right? He'll quote all that, depending on what best suits the point he's trying to make and his purposes in writing. And that's fine to him, right? And I don't know why it shouldn't be fine to us as well, right? Like, I'm going to claim credit for that whole victory. But so he'll quote from all of them, and the Church Fathers will do that too. The Church Fathers quote at least versions of the Greek text that no longer exist. We'll put it that way. And so most likely they're looking at sort of different versions of the Greek that they had available to them, and if there's one particular variant that they think really makes the point well that they want to make, they just quote that one. And they sort of view it as this sort of broader richness. If there were other questions in there, I missed them, because we got a couple there that were kind of long form. So between playing the game and answering those questions, I didn't totally keep up on everything. I don't think. So if there were other questions in there that people want to ask, feel free to repeat them. Who do I want to play? We got a healer, we don't have a tank. Oh, yeah. I don't know if Bart Ehrman even plays this game, you know what I mean? Like...
Tony, it's been decades.
You don't look any different.
You haven't designed those life extension treatments yet?
But, if he did, he'd be welcome to come on the stream. But yeah, feel free to repeat any questions I missed or ask any other ones. Who would he main? That's a good question. Who would Bart Ehrman main? What would Bart Ehrman do if he was here right now? Right, but yeah, so when Christ talks about returning to the Father, what he's really talking about, as his divine nature, of course, as God, he did not vacate heaven. You are correct. But when he ascended into heaven, he brings our humanity with him. And our humanity is then enthroned at the right hand of the Father. So, I believe that's what he's referring to. Come on, somebody. Respond to my thing. Throw me a bone here, guys. I'm trying to get achievements.
Some assistance, please.
So who would Bart Ehrman main? Horde. No. I think, I think Bart Ehrman would main Iron Fist. I'm going out on a limb here, I know. And I'm not saying he'd be good with Iron Fist. But I think that would be who he would main.
You're headed straight for the Shrine of the Weaver.
You're halfway there. Keep going.
Oh, this...
We've got trouble.
Come on, guys, respond to my page. Do it. Do it. William Lane Craig would definitely, only play Black Widow and refuse to switch, even though he was completely ineffectual. And he'd construct sort of tedious, pedantic arguments about why Black Widow was the best character for him to play. Not getting a lot of healing love going on here, Groot. Do we have one? We have one.
Shields up.
I am Groot.
Get that vehicle moving again.
We're not getting there fast enough.
Would I play who?
You get away with it. You get away with it. You get away.
I'll just run over here and grab this health pack. Oh, Father Andrew, no. No, Father Andrew, this is not the type of game Father Andrew would play.
Get that vehicle moving again.
I briefly got him to play Lord of the Rings Online, but even that didn't really last. He's done like he used to do like old RTSs and stuff. That was like his vibe. More.
Down to 30 seconds.
Second count.
Oh yeah. My wife and I were both Horde for the vast majority of our
Get that vehicle moving again.
WoW time. We met
10
Horde.
seconds.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man.
Let's keep fighting until we have a winner.
I never did Dark Age of Camelot. That is what I never did. I did a lot of MMOs for brief periods.
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
I mean, we don't have a lot of Orthodox Bible guys. Ones we have are generally good. Most of the... Well, see, that's what my wife did most of the time. But then she switched to Warlock, so... Hey, I was the best of the worst, SVP. Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
Pick your hero. Or villain. I'm not judging.
Oh, I was gonna say, I have a whole lot of, I got me a whole lot of hours in on, Star Trek Online, actually.
God of mischief and the king of Asgard.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Genie Constantino is good. Her published dissertation on St. Andrew of Caesarea's commentary on
I am accused of loving chaos.
on Revelation is
30 seconds
pretty
before you
brilliant.
attack. Get ready.
It's pretty much the magisterial thing on it. Most but Dr. Genie's a good example. Like, or Father Bogdan Boker. Most of the other Orthodox Bible guys are not really in biblical studies. Like, they're doing patristic interpretation, right? Which is its own field and totally valid. But it's a little bit, you tend to... Dr. Genie has a biblical studies degree, so she does a lot of patristic stuff, but she also has a biblical studies background to do some of the contextual and historical stuff that I try to do. right, the biblical studies vein. But most folks, like Father Bogdan and stuff, are actually patristic scholars. They just specialize in patristic biblical interpretation. So, which, like I said, is totally legit, just not exactly the same thing.
A little help, please.
I believe he is, yes. Oh man, Thor talking smack on me when I died? That's cold. It's cold, Thor. Yeah. So, but most biblical study, I mean, the biblical studies field is still just predominated by Protestants. Then there's like a handful of Roman Catholics and less than a handful of Orthodox involved. And even to get, like, there being something close to a handful of Orthodox involved, like, I have to include, like, Oriental Orthodox. Like, that gives you a couple more. So.
You captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
But in that line, like I said, if you want some good, you know, like reviews of patristic commentary on Scripture, Dr. Gini's published dissertation, very good. All of Bishop Alexander's stuff and the Theophany School, their stuff on the Jewish roots of early Christian mysticism, and their stuff on
You never fail to impress me, Reed.
Just like my brother to leave.
on like Andrei Orlov is from that group. His stuff on Second Power in Heaven and on Slavonic pseudepigrapha, that's all good stuff. That's why we had Archbishop Alexander come and speak at the first Lord of Spirits conference. Which was cool. Yeah, Marquette, if you're looking to do like biblical studies like Christian origins, New Testament stuff, Marquette is like a top flight program for the US. Like
30 seconds before you attack.
in all circles. That's not just an Orthodox thing because of Archbishop Alexander and the crew. That's a like recognized by everyone. Marquette is a place to do that.
Don't make it weird.
We actually tried to get Orlov to come speak at the second Lord of Spirits conference, but he apparently doesn't do speaking engagements.
Battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There are a lot of scholars like that who aren't into going and doing speaking engagements.
I have seen many futures, and most of them are bad.
It's sort of not their bit. And I'm like, but there's a D&D tournament. Still no dice. I don't know what to tell you.
The more the merrier.
Just what we need.
Get in there.
They got the drop on you. Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now.
Your failure was inevitable.
The mission area is yours.
Forgive myself for this, Susan.
It's ours.
Well, I don't know. So, I wanted the D&D tournament last time. That was kind of my doing. And, I wasn't necessarily going to have one this time. But apparently, from what Father Andrew told me, when they took polls about what people liked,
Powers of mine.
like, people loved the D&D tournament. So I guess we're having it again. The first one last year was first edition. So, for those who not old heads out there, when Dungeons & Dragons first came out, there were actually two games. There was Dungeons & Dragons and there was Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. And Dungeons & Dragons was a, like the game you got to play at home with your family and friends, right? There was a series of box sets, right? And so that was just the sort of fun game. And then Advanced Dungeons & Dragons was for tournament play. Because the milieu that Dungeons & Dragons was created in by Gary Gygax was based around miniature games, like medieval miniature games. And when it started out, in the very first version of the game, the player characters were sort of like hero units in an RTS, right? Like you were the commanders in like the miniature war game, and then it evolved from there. But so he had always intended it to be for tournament play, the way they had miniature war game tournaments. And so a lot of the early modules that were made for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons were the official tournament. They did seasonal tournaments, spring, summer, fall, winter. And they were the seasonal tournament modules for when people held tournaments. So what we did last time is we just got one of the old tournament modules and ran it as a game, as a tournament. And basically the way it works in terms of being a tournament is that the dungeon, it's usually a dungeon crawl, and it's set up in such a way that there are benchmark objectives that the group, everybody's playing stock characters that they select. There are sort of goals and things that each character can do in the game, and if you do them successfully in that module, you get points. If the team as a whole group as a whole does certain things, achieves certain things, they all get points. And then Rare Maker MVP animation. And then you sort of total up those points, the individual points and the team points, and determine, rankings based on that tournament play. Now, I don't know if they actually ever calculated the points at the last one, or if people just kind of didn't worry about it. They just played the module as fun. But we had a whole series of groups. We divided everybody up who wanted to play into groups. And, yeah, another achievement. And each group had a DM, and they each ran the module individually in a whole bunch of separate groups. So I'm assuming we'll probably be doing the same thing again this year, like the same setup, with a different module. But yes, I wanted to based on my youthful experience as a Dungeons & Dragons player with the Satanic Panic in the 80s, I swore a solemn vow that if I am going to have a I'm going to have a Dungeons & Dragons tournament at my Bible conference. And I did. So I declared that a victory over the Satanic Panic and my youthful oppressors. Yeah, there is going to be a pop culture panel. I'm not going to be allowed. It's not going to be just Twin Peaks. But people can definitely show up and ask me Twin Peaks questions. Or ask me Twin Peaks questions here, for Pete's sake. Yeah, all that Dositheus and Peter McGeela stuff is a bunch of knuckleheads on Twitter, and you should ignore it. Is that clear enough? In terms of my opinion?
I suppose some things never change.
Yeah.
Starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have to stop them from securing the mission area.
Anything that increases my firepower.
Yeah, I haven't read that one. His free will in St. Maximus the Confessor is great. And, what was the other one? There's another one I've read.
Fast, guide my spear. A sniper. Such cowardice.
Got the sniper. Stronger together. Sniper shooting at
I do not think they're going to stream or do e-tickets. You'd have to ask Ancient Faith, though. I mean, I have no input into that, right, whatsoever. That Black Widow's a bad aim. So you'd have to ask them more about that. Well, his free will makes St. Maximus Confessor is really making the point about the importance of St. Maximus's view of there being free will in the eschaton. Meaning free will in the new heavens and the new earth. Right? Which fundamentally means that free will is not a question of sin per se. Right? Free will isn't just the ability to sin. And where Farrell takes that in particular is that what that requires, right? If free will is not just the freedom to sin, that means that the principle in Plato that distinction implies opposition can't be true, right? Because if distinction implies opposition, then there can only be one good option, by definition. All other options must be to some degree evil, right? By virtue of being distinguished from that one most good option, they are not just sort of inferior somehow, but actually bad, right? And so he presents St. Maximus' position on sort of one side of the spectrum. That no, there's legitimate variation in the world, and there's variation within good, right? Multiple things can be good. Different things can be good for different people. Equally good. There's not have to be what, right? So like celibacy and monasticism does not have to be better than marriage, right? It could be another path that is also good, and marriage is also good. On the far other extreme, you have, or Farrell posits Origin, who's sort of a full-on Platonist, right? Like, no, distinction does very much imply opposition. And, and so there can only be one good, the good must be one, and then you get into the whole weirdness of Origen's view of the new heavens and the new earth, where people are spheres, and things, there's not even ontological diversity, meaning things aren't even separate beings for Origin and the eschaton. And then he puts St. Augustine sort of in between. St. Augustine as accepting the basic Platonic principles, but also moderating them in places as is necessary, right? Based on the Christian tradition. Right? But he's arguing St. Maximus is right. So the importance of that argument is multiple things could be good. We don't have to decide oh no, this one thing is good and therefore everything else is somehow bad, right? Because it's not that. Which is important theologically in helping cure Plato brain. Yes, the dumpster scene in Mulholland Drive is, I think, the scariest, creepiest scene in any movie, and nothing actually happens in it. That's the genius of Mulholland Drive. It's worth watching sort of Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, and Inland Empire as a trilogy, I think. That's a time commitment. All three of those movies are a little rough in places. Alright, we have come to that time of the last game. That means the first character that I see in the chat will be the character I play for this last game. Okay, I have to try and play Spider-Man. This is going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. Just everyone prepare for the ugliness that's about to ensue.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Only my neighborhood is now like multiple realities.
And yes, I got the chasm skin. I have not seen Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm not an anime hater. Completely. I am just also not an anime enthusiast. Like, I watched back in the day when anime had a very politically correct name in this country. I watched all the things, right? Like, I watched Akira. I watched,
30 seconds. Stay strong.
I watched, Appleseed, Ninja Scroll, Barefoot Gen, Angel Cop, Ghost in the Shell, you know, all the
Battle starts in 5.
the stuff that was like getting released in the US in the 90s and stuff.
You have to stop them from missionary.
Oh yeah, Robotech, which is what we called Macross in my day. Yeah, Ninja Scroll is not really for 17-year-olds. That's agreed.
Truly the best you have, Namor.
Oh.
Now I gotcha.
That was funny. I didn't know you could snatch people out of their base.
Gotta admit, he gets things done.
Yeah, so I think that last scream, the way I mean, I'd have to go into a whole long thing about how I read all of Twin Peaks. But the short version is the way I read, right, that very end. Is, that basically, right, like,
Back in the swing of things.
Cooper has arrived at the point where you can't, like, the situation is irredeemable as it stood,
You need to stop that.
But so he tries to undo the situation basically in the past, right? Make it so that that situation was never the situation, right?
Feeling stronger already.
Now I've got something to prove.
Well, but anyway, so the I'll get to the Josie in a second. But the so he goes and he tries to do it in the past, so that the bad that he can't fix would sort of never have existed at all. And when he does that, it still doesn't fix it. Right? He arrives in a different world
I gotta do better this time.
where he's undone the problem, but there's now like a whole set of other problems. And so the scream is sort of a scream into the void that recognizes that like it can't be undone, right?
Watch out, there's a little mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
And the Greek lexicon I use is the Liddell Scott. There are different sizes. I use the full-size one. That's just a standard Greek lexicon for all of classical Greek. So since they're just doing classical Greek, they're just doing all ancient Greek in all eras, like, it's rather than just biblical Greek, they're sort of not the same, right? Like, the writers don't have the same dog in the hunt, right? That any theological writer, any Christian writer is going to have certain theological presuppositions and stuff that they're going to want to find in the text, right? And Liddell Scott being just secular, basically secular classical scholars,
Now I've got something to prove.
don't care about any of that. So it's sort of the least biased in that regard. The Liddell and Liddell Scott is the father of Alice Liddell, about whom Alice in Wonderland was written. So, fun fact. In terms of Josie Packer, the key to understanding what's going on with the bedside table is that you have to think about the wood, right? Especially what the log lady has to say about the wood and the logs.
Squids are toast. Now my sights are on their king.
Better than Aunt May's chicken soup.
Some sort of squid.
So as you can see, I am really bad with Spider-Man. But I'm also a man of my word.
I'm not a vengeful
I said I would play whoever got
Today
picked.
I'll make an exception.
And this was the pick. I'm hoping to give Spider-Man another shot. I currently have a strategy. You may have noticed I've been playing some Black Panther tonight. I'm continuing to hone my Black Panther. And then my strategy will essentially be to go from him to go from Black Panther to Iron Fist, and then if I can get a handle on Iron Fist, then to try Spidey again and see if maybe any of my skills with those other somewhat similar characters transfer over. I never think I'm going to do much Spider-Man playing. The real trick here is eventually they're going to add Daredevil to this game, and I'm totally going to want to play Daredevil
But today I'll make an exception.
because I've been a massive Daredevil fan for decades. So, yeah. It depends on the character, how long it takes me to learn. So, like, I've been farming achievements, as you saw a little tonight. Like yesterday. Ugh. Like yesterday, I played like one game with Squirrel Girl and got both achievements and got MVP. There's going to be on the YouTube channel, over the next few days, there's going to be some weird, random games of me getting MVP with different characters. Like, it took me 3 games with Winter Soldier, Jeff, I did yesterday, got his achievements. Yeah, I haven't tried to crack magic yet. All of the melee DPS are harder to play. I've gotten pretty decent with Wolverine, but he's hard to play. And Black Panther, I'm still working on, and he's hard to play. Spider-Man is just sort of the hardest of them so far to play. But I know when Daredevil comes out, he's going to be like halfway between Spider-Man and Iron Fist. I did not say there would be a guest speaker on the next Lord of Spirits episode. So I don't know what you're talking about there, my friend. This is one of your heretical rumors, I'm sure. So, okay. We'll go ahead and close out the stream. I may actually stream tomorrow, believe it or not, tomorrow night. We'll see what happens. But thank you, everybody, for hanging around and asking questions so I can discuss deep and random theology and biblical studies stuff while playing this game. I'm really hoping someone decides to respond to something I say in this, like Gavin Ortland or something, just so they have to show the clip. And what'll be great is, even if they say, well, we're not going to show the video, we're just going to play the audio, there's going to be, like, all these weird sound effects in the background of me talking that will be even more inexplicable if they don't show the video. So I'm super hoping somebody has to do a response video to something I say. But anyway, thank you guys for hanging out.